Hi everyone, this is Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing this Me and My Robot card featuring new stamps and dies from Mama Elephant. I'm combining the Me and My Robot stamps and dies with the Hilly Stitched Thanks die and the previously released Puffy Clouds for this sweet little scene card. We're going to start with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel of smooth white cardstock and ink it with Wild Honey and Chipped Sapphire Distress inks. I'm going to start with a fairly light hand to begin with, as I'm using regular distress inks on Neenah smooth white cardstock, and I don't want to get any funny blending marks into the background. I'm starting with my light ink first on purpose, as I don't want to transfer a bunch of the Chipped Sapphire into the Wild Honey. After I've added some Wild Honey to the top part of the card, I'm going to apply the Chipped Sapphire, starting light at first and gradually darkening up the color. I don't have to go all the way to the bottom of the panel, as I will be covering this up with a border die cut with the Hilly Stitched Thanks die. Once I have that ink color getting fairly dark, I'm going to overlap where the Wild Honey and Chipped Sapphire meet, and then I'm going to go back in with both ink blending tools and gradually blend that out more. I even added more of the Wild Honey ink into the top part of my card. And then I went back with Chipped Sapphire and darkened that up and kind of pulled the blue up the sides just a little bit. We'll go back with Wild Honey then and make sure that's blended really well before we take a distress sprayer and spritz the background with water droplets. The water is going to react with the distress ink, creating this really fun, beautiful sky background. It's going to be the perfect backdrop for my Me and My Robot images. I'm going to allow this to completely air dry before I assemble the rest of my card. I'm going to take another 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of smooth white cardstock, and I'm going to die cut a border from the bottom of this. I'm going to use my background as a guide so I kind of know how far to bring up the stitched or the Hilly Stitched Thanks. There's also a Hilly Stitched Hello if you want to create a different sentiment for your card. The great thing about these images is that you can create many different cards with this stamp set. I'm going to set this aside while I stamp and color the images for my card. All the images for today's card are from the Me and My Robot stamp set. We're going to be using the robot with his hands on his hips, 2 of the girl images from this set, and we'll repeatedly stamp the star all over the background, or all over, so that we have many for the background. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp these images on Bristol Smooth cardstock. We're going to color the images in with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I'm laying down a very light little outline of the gray Zig marker, pulling that color out just a little bit further with my pale gray marker, and then we're going to blend out even further with the blender. I'm constantly cleaning the tip of my markers, the lighter markers, off on some scrap paper, or in this instance just down below the stamped images, so that I don't transfer too much of the dark color to where I want it naturally to be lighter. The robot image is the largest image on this card, so it's going to take the most to color. However, coloring this way with the zigs is really fairly quick and easy. I'm laying that color down again, outlining, pulling out with the pale gray, and then finishing with the blender. We're going to continue this all the way through the card. The blender is a great addition to your Zig Clean Color Real Brush Marker collection, as it makes anything lighter. So it kind of creates a lighter version of any color you're using, which I find super handy. You're going to see that when I color in the yellow stars of the background, as I'm only going to use one color of a Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker and blend out with the blender, which gives me the illusion of 2 shades of that mustard colored marker. I'm working in small areas rather than coloring or adding my dark marker to lots of areas, blending out with the pale gray and then blending even further with the blender. And that's on purpose. I find I have a little bit better control and I keep track of where I am a little better when coloring a larger image if I just work in small sections at a time. You can always go back and add a little additional color if you want to. It's about this point that I decided any of the bolts or joints on my robot I wanted to just color in with my gray marker so that there were some much darker areas on my robot. The little patched area up on his head, I'm going to purposely leave blank for now and come back with my mustard and blender markers and color that in a little bit. He is so super cute and can be colored in any color combination you want. I went with a little bit more muted tones for my coloring today to match the background of my card. I'm using some pink haze on the cheeks to give some character to my robot. Here are those stars, and I'm adding just a tiny bit of the mustard color to those and then blending out with my blender. This gives a nice ombre effect to all of my stars. There's the little spot on his head that I also colored with mustard and the blender. The rest of my stars are going to be colored with deep blue and haze blue. I wanted a variety for the background that matched the sky that we just inked with Distress Inks. Now all we have left are the 2 little girl images. These are fairly small, so you don't have to do a ton of blending if you don't want to. The red areas are colored with deep red and pale rose. Her little shirt, I guess we want to say. The skirt with deep blue and haze blue. The skin is beige and flesh color with pink haze for the cheeks. The first girl's hair I'm going to color with mid-brown and oatmeal. Originally, I traced the color, blended out with my lighter color, in this case the oatmeal, just like I would if I was coloring any larger area. You don't get a lot of texture to the hair this way, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it for a minute and I'll come back and add some texture here in a second. The second girl's hair is gray and pale gray, the same colors we used for the robot. We'll color in the remaining areas on her outfit with some additional markers that we've used in other areas. Then we're going to take the tip of our gray marker and go in and very carefully add texture to the hair and use mid-brown for the other girl's hair. This instantly gives the hair some texture and really adds to the images. We'll color in the second girl's outfit with some of the same colors that we've used throughout the rest of the card design. Again, lots of muted colors to really match the background. I decided to take a heart from the Me and My Robot set and stamp it directly onto my robot right over what I've already colored, and then I'll color in the heart with deep red and pale rose. I've die cut my images with the coordinating Me and My Robot dies. I'm going to take a sentiment then from the Me and My Robot stamp set that reads, "A giant thank you to my favorite human," and I'm offsetting it slightly, centering it underneath the word thanks, but not in the center of the card. I think that this orientation works a lot better with this design. I'm inking up my sentiment with the chipped sapphire distress ink so it really coordinates and flows with the background perfectly. It's time to put everything together now. We're going to put some adhesive on the back of the Hilly Stitched Thanks and adhere it along the bottom edge of our background. You can see it covers up any of that white area on our inked background. Next, we want to place our largest image right back behind the hilly stitched thanks. I've just applied that with some liquid glue, and I'm also going to start adhering some of these puffy clouds. These clouds are from the Mama Elephant Puffy Clouds dies, and I've die cut the 2 smallest sizes to place all over my background. Some of them are going to be adhered directly to the background, and a couple of them will be adhered with foam adhesive. I've also glued one of the girls in place to appear to be standing on top of the letter N in the sentiment. Once we have some of the clouds and images placed, we can start adhering all of the rest of the small images like the stars. I've attached the other girl standing down there next to the robot with foam adhesive, and then here are some of the clouds attached with foam adhesive as well. The stars are all going to be glued directly to the background. I'm filling in open areas with all of these stars. With so much going on, in the upper, probably 3/4 of this card, I purposely left that bottom sentiment border white with just a stamped sentiment. It gives your eyes somewhere to rest naturally. We have just a few more stars to adhere to the background, and then it's time for finishing details. If I ever need to hold something in place while the liquid glue dries, I love to use my tweezers. I'm going to flip my panel over and trim off anything that's overhanging the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel. So some of the clouds needed to be trimmed down a little bit. We're going to glue or adhere our background to a white top fold card base. And then we're going to take a white pin and add some pin detail to the robot. The little girl images are pretty small, so I'm not going to add anything to those at this time. I really think it would interfere with the overall look if I tried to add some pin detail to those. But on the robot, it really adds a fun little touch. We're going to add white pin detail all over and even a little highlight to the heart on its chest and some little white marks. I thought I would add some to the clouds, and then I opted not to since I'm going to take some Nuvo Crystal Drops in White Blizzard. I did take a black pin to the eyes on the robot, which really make them pop. The Nuvo Crystal Drops are going to add some sparkle to the stars in the sky. These should dry fairly quickly as I'm just laying a nice light layer on. But you'll want to wait 24 hours before putting this in an envelope to mail to the recipient. And there is the finished card. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Me and My Robot thanks card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel to never miss a video. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.